talk more about this, we welcome back Jasmyne Cannick. She's a political and social commentator, and Dennis Zine, a former city councilman and sergeant with the LAPD. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
We know that there was video from yesterday's shooting. Would you expect that we would see it, either one of you?
I would hope that we would see it. The community of Los Angeles questions. And every time you have a situation where there's another shooting, more questions. And you can't dodge them. You can't avoid them. You can't throw a massive number of officers to think it'll go away. You've got to answer the questions, and you've got to be forthright with those questions and those answers. If it's a fake gun, the officer thinks it's a real gun. If it's a real gun, the question is, did they have weapons? Was it a real gun? Wasn't it a real gun? Was it loaded? Was it not? People want to know the truth. The bottom line is, there's a lot of skepticism out there, especially in the African American community of South Los Angeles. So no matter how many community relations officers you send out there, people question. You've got to answer those as quickly as possible, not let it linger for days and weeks and months, and then by the time it comes around, oh, it's too late to worry about.
Is that what the LAPD is doing? I mean,
it's exactly what
Chief Beck is saying that, doesn't tell the whole story. I mean, even the policy right now with the body cameras, even though they may have them, which in this case apparently they did not, they have the right to decide whether or not to release the footage.
All right, so that's the problem, right? Chief Beck likes to talk about transparency and about honesty, like he did today in the press conference earlier today. But transparency and honesty means putting that video out there. If you stand behind the officers involved in the officer-involved shooting, and you're going to tell the public that both of the suspects had guns, one was a replica, one was a real gun, then let the public see that. You wonder why the community has so much mistrust of officers. It's because of their leadership and people like Chief Beck. You cannot keep coming to us day after day, week after week, and saying that you support transparency and you want to see transparency, but you do everything possible to fight being transparent.
There are actually two schools of thought: that you show the video and it incites more violence. What we saw in Charlotte, where they released the video and it actually stopped the demonstrations, it was seen as a key piece of information that sort of quelled the feelings people had.
So black people aren't animals. We're not going to riot just because a video came out. We've seen videos come out all over this country. We have had a lot of changes with some very smart police chiefs who have looked at what the situation is and said, you know what, we've been doing it like this, but going forward, we're going to try to do this. And they've had huge successes in doing that. Chief Beck is stuck. He's stuck. I want to say stuck on stupid, but I'll just say he's stuck on not being transparent, and he's stuck on being dishonest to the community. He needs to take, instead of him always talking about the LAPD as a leader for other agencies, I think a lot of other agencies around the country have been leaders when it comes to this kind of issue around video and being transparent and forthright with the community.
We're not isolated in Los Angeles. If we look at what's happened around the country, other situations where African Americans have been shot and killed by police officers, communities have created a lot of unrest, rioting situations, unrest. You don't want that to happen here. And throwing a lot of community relations officers isn't going to solve the problem. You need to be forthright. And if it's a gun, and I would tell you from my years in law enforcement, which is almost 50 years, if someone pulls a gun on me, I am trained to react, and I'm to take action to stop that threat. Now, whether it's a real gun or not a real gun, it looks like a real gun, it's loaded, I don't know, but you're not going to take the risk of getting shot. Police officers aren't paid to get shot and go to the morgue. They're paid to protect and to serve.
With that point, Chief Beck came out today and he seemed to, he displayed the photos of one was a real weapon in the Carnell Snell case. He says was recovered at the scene. And in another situation, one was a replica gun. Seemingly for a lot of people, it kind of puts a period at the end of that because you're saying these two individuals pointed guns at officers. They feared for their lives.
I didn't hear pointed.
Okay,
only in one case.
It was pointed in one case. But some of the protesters out there, you heard in that story there, said more questions need to be asked. Just because they were armed or, okay, in one case pointed a gun, more questions need to be asked.
Well, if they point the gun, that's the question. If you've got video showing they pointed the gun, I think the society accepts the fact the uniformed police officer is going to react, and reacts by using deadly force. If they're not pointed, if they have a gun and they throw it away, that's a different situation.
Right.
You've got to have a situation where that person has the gun and point at you. That's the imminent threat that you have to react to.
Right. Pulling a gun out of your pocket to toss or what is not the same as turning around and pointing a gun point blank at an officer. And so there are a lot of questions that the questions have been asked. What we need are answers. And I think the sooner they come forward, Chief Beck comes forward with the answers and the truth, I think there will be some more ease in the community. Look, it's not a far-fetched notion when
Right.
people talk about guns being planted and stories being changed. We've seen it happen in real life here in Los Angeles.
Jasmine and Dennis,
So,
we thank you so much for your
Thank you.
conversation on
Thank
this
you.
issue. Obviously, the most important thing is that the citizens remain safe and the police officer as we uphold the law.
And more to come on this
Thank you.
subject.
Yes.